Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about stations that need to be fully accessible. Now I know the MTA is currently working towards making most of the stations accessible for all, but here are some of the top ones that they just have to access. I don't know the word for it, but first one is Hugh Street on the J and M trains. As you can see, it is not accessible, which is kind of disappointing because Hugh Street is a really popular station. It's like where the M train basically gets crowded, or the J gets crowded into Manhattan. So it's kind of sad that it's not accessible, but hope they can make it accessible. Okay, so I think that was good. Next, another station that needs to be accessible is Metropolitan Avenue, Lorimer Street. So this is a station that just there's a connection. It's a popular station. This is where the L train gets crowded. This is when G train customers are getting off for the L, like most of them. So yeah, I think it should be accessible because it's really hard when it's a popular station. Okay. Next, I'm going with that Newkirk Avenue on the 2 and 5 should also be accessible. I mean, this station, it's really popular. Most people are on the 2 instead of the 5, but it's quite popular, and it should be accessible because the 2 and 5, we're trying to make the Nostrand Avenue line, accessible. Same with President Street, Medgar Evers College. It should be accessible to just make it easier to reach. Okay. Next station. It's Fort Hamilton Parkway on the F and G lines. Now, I just said this, but it should apply to these Culver stops. Basically none of them are accessible, but the only one is Coney Island. So at least have Fort Hamilton or 15th Prospect accessible, because this is where people are aborting the F and G to either Coney Island or Manhattan, but the G, some riders are getting off at Hoyt Schermerhorn for A and C's. So it's important to have Fort Hamilton and 15th Street Prospect Park accessible. So the next one that needs to be accessible is 2nd Avenue on the F train. So this is not fully accessible, which I don't get because 2nd Avenue is so popular. You have the M15, which people are getting off for service via Houston Street, and it's relatively I wouldn't say a crowded stop, but it's densely popular. So it's kind of like Bleecker Street on the 6th that is accessible, and Spring Street, which isn't. So 2nd Avenue should be accessible, I think. The next station is Canal Street. Now, the 6th is accessible, but make Canal Street fully accessible. So the J, N, Q, R, W, Z, make those accessible. Make that a fully accessible station, because who's riding the 6th at Canal? So you should just use the N, Q, R, and W, because this is where riders are getting on the bridge, on the Manhattan Bridge. So it should be accessible. The next station that I'm talking about that needs to be accessible is Queensboro Plaza on the N, W, and 7 trains. So, the N, W, and 7, yeah, I think this should be accessible because Queensboro Plaza, who can agree with me, is a really crowded stop because of the connection between IRT and BMT. So like it needs to be accessible because there are so many people that that are just using 39th Avenue instead of Queensboro Plaza since it's not accessible. Okay. Next station that needs to be accessible. Okay. It is. Okay. I'll say it now. I'll say it. It's Court Street on the R train and Borough Hall in the 2, 3, 4, and 5. I mean, the 2, 3, 4, and 5 northbound are accessible, but we have to make this like a fully accessible station. This is the stop people use from South Brooklyn to get back to Manhattan. So, yeah, it should be accessible, I think. Next station that should be accessible. Dun, 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 dun. 5th Avenue, 53rd Street, and 5th Avenue, 59th Street. So these two stations should be accessible because these are so used. Like 5th Avenue, I wouldn't exactly call it crowded, but it's like insanely popular, as well as 59th Street, which in the evening rush hour, yeah, pretty packed. Especially 5th Avenue, 53rd Street, it needs accessibility. But Lexington Avenue, 53rd are accessible. But 7th is not accessible either. And 14th Street is not. And, yeah, it's like, it needs to be accessible. Another station that needs to be accessible is 42nd Street, Bryant Park. I mean, it's a 42nd Street, so it has to be accessible. Because this is so crowded, such a crowded station, as well as Times Square, as people are transferring to the BDF and M. So it should be accessible. Okay, so I think I'm done for today. I'll create a part 2 maybe, and I hope you enjoyed this. So